I'm William Stewart. Welcome back to our verse by verse study on the book of Philippians. We're just starting chapter 3. Paul's talking about his own experience in becoming a believer and his attitude. We're going to go through verses 4 through 8 today. So, interesting verses. Paul saying before in the first few verses of the chapter, he had no confidence in his own flesh. And then he explains, starting verse 4 at King James, though I might also have confidence in the flesh, if any other man thinketh that he whereof he might trust in the flesh, I have more. Okay, so he's basically saying, if anybody should trust in the flesh, it should be me. And he gives reasons why. Circumcised the eighth day, otherwise according to the law, stock of Israel, so he's an Israelite, tribe of Benjamin, so he's identified to the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews. Otherwise, he obeyed the law. Okay, he's educated in the law by the teacher, Rabbi Gamaliel, famous rabbi. And concerning the law, it says touching. It really means according to the law. This is the law that God gave to Moses, which the Israelites followed, supposedly, in the Old Testament. He's a Pharisee. Otherwise, he was a religious leader of the Pharisee sect that began in between the Testaments. So, a recognized leader. Verse 6, concerning zeal, persecuting the church. Touching, again, that means according to the righteousness which is of the law, blameless. So he followed the law. By his zeal, he went and persecuted the church before he was converted. So what's all this mean? Well, by Paul's standard as a Jew, God had given to the Jews through the law the way of righteousness, otherwise pointing how to live a good life, a holy life, the way of salvation by faith in the coming Messiah. God gave them other benefits, such as the prophets. He spoke to them, led them, provided them miracles to help their faith, protected them at times, really according to how faithful the Jews were being. And of course, the whole time showed great mercy and patience. So out of this, of all the peoples on the earth, it was the Jews in the Old Testament times that had the advantages. This is confirmed in the book of Ephesians 2, verses 10, 11, and 12, and 13. So Paul, then, of that group, then knew everything about it. He was a Jew of Jews. If anybody should have confidence in his flesh, it should be him. But then he says in verse 7, but what things were gained to me, otherwise as being a Jew and a Pharisee, those I counted loss for Christ. Otherwise, counted meaning considered in the original Greek. Yet doubtless I count all things lost for the excellency of the knowledge of Christ my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, that I may win Christ, gain Christ, literally in the original Greek. So it happened on the road to Damascus. In Acts 9, Christ appeared to him, and Paul became a Christian, came to faith. So all those, all those things in which he put confidence in to gain him acceptance before God, he threw them away. He counted them as lost. They were worthless. What was valuable to them was basically God's grace and his belief in his death and resurrection. Paul came to faith, as we all have. Everything that we've done, everything that we've considered to be important in our lives to gain favor with God, as a Christian or a non-Christian, is worthless. It was only by faith in his grace and his mercy that we were dragged basically to faith. God chose us, dragged us to faith. The Spirit convicted us to bring us to faith by no works or credentials of our own. All God, all the time. And even now, we don't have to gain his favor. We are his children, and he helps us persevere. And we have his great promises of security of our salvation. Okay, great attitude. So he's saying to the Philippians, hey, I had every reason to be confident in who I was religiously, and it was all worthless. And same with you. Everything in your background is also worthless. It's just all the grace of God. Thanks for joining me. We'll continue in the section about Paul next time. I hope you'll join me then.